Where's Mr. Dave? Did he get word he was gonna be here today?
I haven't heard otherwise.
I'll make us hot, Brian. Oh, Jason. Wasn't sure whether to call you Chris, Amber, or you have a preference? Okay. Okay, get ready to roll, guys. Okay, good evening. Here we are on our November meeting at 4:30 on the, what is it, the 13th? 13th of November. Man, this year is going by fast. Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see, who hasn't done this recently? I have not heard the Pledge of Allegiance driven by our new GM yet. George, would you do us honors?
Of course. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job.
There he is. You and Dave were out in the parking lot kibitzing, weren't you?
You two are going to have to do the pledge by yourselves. Roll call. Lauren?
President Boyd,
Here.
Vice President Kaczynski,
Here.
Director Griffin,
Here.
Director Rotora,
Here.
Director Sademont.
Here. Very good. Posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's regular board meeting was posted on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023.
That, okay. Conflict of interest declaration.
President Boyd,
None.
Vice President Kaczynski,
None.
Director Griffin,
None.
Director Rotora,
None.
Director Sademont.
None. That being said, I must inform you that I am an employee of the federal government. However, nothing I say tonight necessarily reflects the opinion of my employer or that of the other board members. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Public questions and comments on closed session. Do we have anybody in the queue? Okay, nobody in the audience. So we will move to go to closed session at 4:32. Oh, we're live. Cool. Okay. And pardon our somewhat late start. Our closed session went a little longer than scheduled. I appreciate your patience with us. It's important stuff we're doing. And it's important that you're here. We appreciate that as well. We already did the Pledge of Allegiance. Our general manager did a fine job for those of you who weren't here to observe. You can play back on YouTube later if you want to see how he did. We're on item number 8, public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter that's not on our agenda, but over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time that item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you are recognized, please identify yourself and your address for the record. Do we have any public questions from the audience?
Should there be, Madam Boyd, did you want to do the report out of closed session, if any?
Oh, I'm sorry, got ahead of council. Jim?
Yeah, the board met in closed session. No action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act. That's all.
Thank you for that, Lauren. You ought to be president. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
Good evening, board. Once again, Mike Neal. I'd like to read you a couple excerpts from recent articles in News Review. Let me start with the one from a couple of issues back, and this was basically written by the Groundwater Authority, supposedly by the chair and vice chair, although reading it, I believe it comes from the GA's lawyers because this sounds just like them. So anyway, in that article's in the News Review, they basically, go back into accusation mode against the Water District. Say, oh, well, we're great guys. We supported Assembly Bill 779, and just one sentence in the second paragraph, that article says, taxpayers shouldn't be paying multiple litigation costs while some parties attempt to shop the courts for the answer they want, and they claim AB 779 addresses this. Sorry. And then they include the Water District with several other parties, and they say they oppose the ability of the court to hear evidence from small farmers. They go on and say they oppose all parties within the basin adhering to the GSP during the adjudication. And further down in the third paragraph, they says they opposed that, and then they argued their case before the Superior Court, and that didn't go their way. They appealed and filed a secondary cause of action for the same thing in the adjudication. And they go on with their coup d'etat at the end saying, the region's residents need to understand The Water District has sided with litigants who are seeking superior water rights to those of the district itself and the United States Navy, which is the main economic driver in the basin, all at the expense of their own ratepayers. I'll comment on that in just a
Mr. Neal,
second.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
might I offer, and I should have followed council's advice, that we are in process of responding to the letter that you read in the news review.
Good.
We are expecting perhaps to have that published if everything goes according to plan.
Good.
Perhaps this week, maybe tomorrow.
I see now.
So we will be addressing, I believe, a lot of the concerns that you're seeing that we share in our response.
Well, I have a
Yes.
secondary point connected to this, but go ahead.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me at all? Oh, it says it's on. I would just ask Mr. Neal if he could please present this during the GA part of
Oh,
the presentation.
sure, we can do that.
Because I would like to comment back. We can't take any action or comment if you're speaking to public comment.
Good point. I can do that.
Okay, good point.
Withdraw further comment.
Thanks, Mike. Are there any other, I hear some phone calls. Do we have somebody in the queue waiting to talk to us? Okay, please pass them through. Thanks, I didn't catch your drift. Didn't catch your drift. Speaker or caller? Go ahead. Caller, can you hear us?
Mine's working.
Yes. Hello, this is Renee Westenlusk. I live within Ridgecross city limits.
Hello,
I just
Renee.
Hi. I just have a few questions on like the transition in the fall, or I guess late fall, going from not using the arsenic treatment plants. Has that happened? And I assume if it has, it'll be discussed under the operations manager's report.
Yes, that would be appropriate time to bring this question up if he doesn't address that directly, Renee.
Okay, and then I was looking at the minutes of the Plant and Equipment Committee, and there's a Canyon Springs Enterprises construction project. Will there be any explanation about that, what that is about?
Yes,
meeting tonight?
at the appropriate time. That'll be a little later this evening.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Do we have anybody else in the phone queue? Anybody else from the audience? Okay, then, current business committee reports. Consent calendar?
I'll make a motion that we move and approve it.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a vote. Public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none? Okay, unanimous approval, it passes. Let's see, let's see. Yes, that covers everything on item A, yes? Okay, item B, Plant Equipment Committee. Who is taking lead on that?
I will.
Renee, thank you.
This is the acceptance of contract work from Canyon Springs Enterprises. They constructed 3 new water tanks for the district, the last of which was put into service October 24th. And this project was completed nearly 5 months ahead of time, which was great. There were 6 change orders on the project. The amount was $52,433.19, which was 1.1% of the original contract amount. There were various reasons for it. Changing the altitude valve, changing the masonry subcontractor, thrust blocks that weren't expected, some piping modifications, things like that. So the work has been completed, and we recommend the district accept the contract work. the amount of $4,753,933.19. Afterwards, this week, the notice of completion will be filed. And following the lien period, make final payment, which will be the retention amount.
And to add that,
Do we need a
the
motion?
committee recommends approval as well.
Okay, do we need a motion, or how do we,
Yes.
okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Comment.
Comment from the public?
I think Renee had a comment.
Oh, you called in, Renee, you had a question about this particular item. Are you still online? Or listening here?
There's a bit of delay, so, yeah.
We'll give her just a minute to call. No?
She must have got her question
I would
answered.
recommend if she comes back that we answer it.
Wait,
Here
Oh,
she
she
is.
She couldn't dial that quicker enough.
Okay, caller? No caller. We lose her?
It's possible she was on, didn't hear us when she was offline
Just-
about what we were discussing.
Anna's new at this, so be patient.
Hello? Yeah, this is Renee.
Hi, Renee,
Silva.
I think we're ready for your question.
I'm sorry, I hung up. I didn't know if I should stay on the line, but my only question was, it says in the minutes, it says the project to construct 3 new reservoirs. So reservoirs in this case means the water tanks.
Thanks.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, because that threw me off when I read that, because I thought, are they trying to build reservoirs to capture rainwater already? And
It's synonymous with the water tanks.
okay, I didn't know that. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Okay, we have a first, or we have a motion and a second. No public comments. Can we have a vote? Okay, unanimous approval by the board. Item 2, Renee, dedication of facilities.
Right, so item 2 is for the Town Place Suites by Marriott, which is the one being constructed to the east of Taco Bell or Ward and Chelsea. And the construction has been completed, but we did not receive an updated construction cost from the contractor. We did contact him last week. He is aware that we needed it by today. I told him if I didn't get it by 4:30, that I would recommend that we put this off till next month.
Okay.
Because we can't do the dedication without the actual construction cost. Because even the engineer had asked them for an updated cost also, because this was just his estimate from 3 years ago, so. And not all the facilities are on his estimate.
Okay, it doesn't look like they're ready for, open for business kind of.
No,
Done,
I don't
it's
think they're
just-
close to
Yeah.
that anyway,
Yeah,
so.
okay, so this probably
But
doesn't impact.
he had said he'd get it to us, but he did not. So
Okay. So no action on our behalf, it's just a status update
I will,
on,
we'll bring it back hopefully next month.
okay, thank you. Item C, Admin Executive Committee. Since you were the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
one
oh,
there.
yes, yeah, since you weren't there, I handled this for you. No, actually, what we did is we passed along the board review and recommended action for the draft education reimbursement policy, which I believe is in the packet.
Okay.
So since you weren't here, I just recommended it just come to the whole board.
Okay. And we'll get that later in the,
Yeah, well, no, we have it right here. We can make a decision.
discuss it here.
Yeah, It's second to the last page, I believe.
I read through it. The only comment I have, I've seen the passing grade of a C or better was passed out, so I had a little bit of concern about that. Does anybody else feel that as a concern, or?
Yeah, why was that struck, George?
It was moved to the first paragraph.
Oh, I see it up there, yeah, okay.
So you're not eliminating that? Okay, because that was my concern. I would think we would want to hold a little bit of accountability and.
Yeah, as a general explanation to the public, we're just updating this policy to reflect current California State University rates and local junior college rates as sort of the standard of what we would reimburse someone. They essentially ask us first. They go to school, they pay for it, they bring their grades in, they bring in their costs, and we reimburse them. We feel it's just sort of consistent with California State, the standard state school rates, and feel that's fair and reasonable, hadn't been updated in a long time.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. Yeah.
Other comments,
No,
concerns, issues
this looks good.
from the public? Nope. Do we need a motion, or what do we need here?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we accept the education reimbursement policy as presented to us here with the red line and corrections, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
Do we have a vote?
Nope.
Thanks for covering that. Okay, item D, authorization to obtain bids for the Northwest Transmission Pipeline Project. Is that yours, Jason?
This
or
was
Renee?
added to the agenda because a lot of times what we do on these projects is when you put in a notice inviting bids, you have to put on there the date that the board authorized the work.
Okay.
Usually we use the date the budget was approved, but since this project was not in our budget, we need to have a date so that we can say, yes, the board has authorized us to go out to bid. And right now the plan is to be out to bid by the end of this month.
Okay,
All right, I move that we authorize staff to solicit bids for the replacement of the Northwest Transmission Pipeline.
we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Public comment?
public comment
Board comment.
and board comment?
Is the bid package complete? Been reviewed by the staff?
No, not yet.
We're expecting to get it hopefully sometime this week and have it out to bid at the end of the month.
Yeah, I had a conversation this afternoon with the engineer at Krieger and Stewart, and we'll have the contract documents and specifications tomorrow morning, and we should have plans to look at by tomorrow afternoon, or if not, Wednesday. So it's in with their drafting department right now.
Other comments, concerns? Okay, we have a motion and a second?
President Boyd,
Yes.
Vice President Kaczynski,
Yes?
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Director Sainamon.
Yes.
Okay. Authorization approved. Public comment on that?
Yes, I'd just like an update. What size and what kind pipe and how long?
About 18, just shy of 19,000 feet and 24-inch PVC.
PVC. And it's going to go from,
Victor to Brady.
okay,
Inside the existing 30-inch pipeline.
That is one of the directions we're looking at, yes.
okay. Inside,
Possible, yeah.
okay.
We're kind of taking my thunder, but
Oh, sorry.
we're running two different bid schedules, one for removal and putting in conventional bell and spigot, and one for slip lining it with fusible PVC.
Thanks, Jason. We have a question? Sure. Speaker or caller? Caller? If I say it 4 times, it'll happen faster.
Now you're good. Now you're good.
Caller?
Hello again. This is Renee West of Lusk. Now, when you're talking in this part of the agenda, you just voted on authorizing for the bids to go out. It
Yes.
says Northwest Transmission Pipeline. That's the same thing as Inyakern?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there a reason why you used both terms for that?
When it was originally designed, it was called the Northwest Transmission Line, so that's the name that's kind of stuck with it, but in-house, we call it the Inyakern Road Transmission Line, so. There's, yeah.
All right.
Same
Thank
pipe.
you. Just
Same
want to
pipe.
make sure I'm understanding the
Yep.
semantics or whatever here.
Thanks for your call, Renee.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, item E, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Last week, Vice President Kaczynski sat in on the meeting, and I believe he's going to give us a review of what happened.
Yeah, I'll give you a brief. One of the main things that was done is Capitol Corps wrote their legislative guidelines in the packet, and I've read through the whole thing, and there's really nothing wrong with it. To me, it's just basically Capitol Corps laying out their groundwork to continue working for them. So, but one line that was said throughout this whole thing is to protect and or reduce ratepayer, taxpayer funding associated with the groundwater sustainability. So throughout this thing, whether it be state, federal, or local, part of their objectives is to reduce ratepayer costs. So at least that's in here. There is one part that when Capitol Corps covered their analysis of the thing that I'm not sure what they were saying here, but it basically is to fight any legislation that will allow any discussion by the courts for proving up numbers, I should say. I'm trying to find the exact wording for that. Oh, here it is. Goal, seek passage of legislation positively modifying the evidentiary process in groundwater adjudications. So that's part of this as well. So all in all, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a guideline for what kind of, what they want to do at the legislative level for advocating for grants and any laws that may affect the basin when it comes to obtaining water or any plans that we have. So it wasn't a bad one. It just, it's nice. It's a nice public document is what I can say about it. They also discussed briefly the report that came to them from the policy committee about looking at shallow well mitigation. Not a lot of action was taken on it. They didn't take any action on the Byerly well, and they say they have the Helpin well now is looking for emergency assistance. So nothing's been done on those because the applications still aren't complete and they haven't been analyzed. But I would think that they're going to use the new analysis, or at least the checklist that was provided to them by the Policy Advisory Committee. And Judy, I can ask you about that if you like. I understood they accepted what you guys submitted is what it was. Because it wasn't in my packet, the exact submittal.
Yes, they accepted it. And if you recall, Steve Johnson said that they were looking at it and he said something about they were adding to it. And I cringed because the subcommittee of the PAC, which was we were all domestic well owners, myself, Lyle Fisher, and Wes Katzenstein, as well as at our request, we had TAC member Don Decker give us technical support on what was written. And the PAC committee as a whole instructed us several times to keep it to 2 pages. And in his discussion of it last week, Steve Johnson said something about it was up to 5 pages. Oh. And I just cringed because what we tried to do was write a document, and I think we did, write a document for the well owner to have to look at to see what was required and what he needed to know about his well. And I believe actually what they said about the Byerly well and the other well was that they were awaiting the report from Garrison Brothers on the condition of the well. which is one of the requirements that we put in our document, and we would be glad to send it to you. It was actually two separate documents, one of 2 pages and one of 1 page, and we will send it to you if you want it. Okay,
I'd like to see that, Judy.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
But it's up to 5 now, you say.
Apparently it has been increased up to 5. You know, you can take a sentence and put lots of adjectives in it and make it a lot longer.
I'll just make a comment, and they talked about this, I believe, in the meeting. They shared a draft copy with me. I'm a little unsure about my legal rights to share a draft of their copy with both the board. I look, I'm legal here and go, I don't know what my leeway is when they've shared a draft, who I can actually allow to see it.
Are you talking about something that's gone through the PAC?
No, so the PAC submitted something to the GA. The GA gave it to Stetson Engineers, who revised it and added some language. I don't think they changed it tremendously significantly, but I just don't know what my leeway is to share that with other people. They sent me a copy, and I read it. I thought it had a lot of reasonableness in it about, you know, the way they're gonna go and look at these wells and evaluate them, but I wasn't comfortable just sharing it without really understanding
I
what.
would just send an email asking what the expected distribution was to be.
But I believe it's public because it's discussed in the PAC meeting. I mean, if I hadn't been in that meeting, I probably would have had that copy in my hand.
George is talking about the revision.
Yeah,
So there's
That
the one
Stetson-
that's now 5 pages and is
Well-
revised by them. So it's
What-
not what Judy wrote, it's what the GA took and changed it into.
Okay.
yeah,
What-
what Judy wrote was submitted to the board. We went over that, looked at it, they filed it, and then I asked them to please relook at it and let's actually implement it into policy. So we could start acting on some of the suggestions that the PAC made. And so that's what I will continue to do.
Thank you.
Is try to get that put into policy. And what George was sent would be what I would assume the revisions made by Stetson with his corrections, the way they would like to see it done. So I have not seen that list yet. So when that list comes out, I would want to look at that also and then make suggestions to the board at a board meeting.
What I forgot to say is Steve Johnson did say that when they were finished, they would send it to the PAC for the PAC's review, and then they want that, then he said, and then we want it back for the December board meeting, but there's no way. We haven't received it yet. Our regular meeting date would be Thanksgiving this month. So obviously, we're not going to have that meeting, so I would say it probably won't get to the board until January, because the PAC will have to review it.
Okay.
Again.
They keep kicking that can a little down the road, don't they?
Well, but, you know, I'm an old stubborn lady, so we'll see what they have to say, but 5 pages is unnecessary.
Thank you. They also discussed the, I'm sorry. I'm gonna finish my, they also discussed the GSP 5-year update, and the thing that comes to there is that EWR provided guidance document on October 30th. Many of you don't know, you can probably find it online, Stan, the guidance document from DWR on updates and annual reports. So they make a mention that came out, and the staff is currently reviewing the guidance in that document. And the same document also addresses the 2023 annual report, that the staff is evaluating how that affects how they're doing reports. And I sort of got the feel when Steve Johnson mentioned it that it may put a little more work behind what they're doing, because that DWR evaluation guidelines is pretty detailed. And so I think that may be cause for better reports and better updates. So that may delay them for a bit. And that's really, that was the main things that were discussed. I know that I thought the meeting went fairly well. There was nothing really controversial in it. And so that's pretty much the main things that went on, besides the approval of their typical budget and such, which always happens. Now, Chuck, did you say you maybe had a comment to make?
I do. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for attending for me and filling in. I appreciate that. Secondly, I'd like to make the comment that the letter, I seen the letter that was in the paper that Mr. Neal referenced a little while ago. I was actually in Wyoming hunting when I seen the letter, but I want to publicly state that I'm a member of that board, and I feel appalled. I think that any board member that speaks about other members or agencies that way of a board is appalling to me. I just can, the misclaims that were made, I do not appreciate at all. I was not spoken to or asked anything about the letter, so that really bugs me. And I know as a water district, we have utmost concern for every small pumper, for any disadvantaged communities. And so the claims that were made were appalling to me.
And I want to tell you that I knew that was out there, and I knew the gist of what was in it. I elected not to read it before the GA meeting because I did not want to maybe speak out of turn on something I should or should not say. So, because I knew it would probably raise the hairs on my head and say what's going on here. So I appreciate your comments, Chuck, but I do know that comments are being made about our non-support of certain issues in the valley, and I do not like that.
I do not either. And I appreciate that we are going to come out with a formal response, and thank you for that, and I hope we get that out quickly.
At the very least, they should have asked all the board members for their concurrence.
Absolutely.
On the plan editorial, and if they abstained from voting or voted against it, there should be a public record of you having done that, but that was not.
No, it was not done.
A quick question. Who is responsible for writing that editorial if it didn't go through the board? Was that staff?
I have no idea, and I'm going to ask that question at next month's meeting, because if the board did not authorize that to be written, and staff is writing those kind of articles and putting them out, who are we being led by? Are we being led by staff, or are we actually being led by a board? So
That's an
I'd like
excellent
to know
question.
those questions.
And it's a recurring pattern of behavior. This isn't the first time they've misrepresented the water district or the water district's motives.
And the headline was the GA.
Well, if it's the staff.
that's you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
To be fair, what it says is that the article is attributable to Kern County Supervisor and Vice Chair Philip Peters and GA Chair and City Councilman Scott Heyman. I believe that's how it was
Yeah.
by them individually in their two positions, and not necessarily from the GA as a board. I don't have the article in front of me, though. That's all.
We can attribute the misrepresentations to the supervisor and to the city councilman. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Other board comments?
Thank you. Yes, this is our first board meeting since the October GA meeting. And I'm a little behind, but I did make two observations out of the October board meeting. One was they went over their budget for next year. And once again, they transferred money from the augmentation fund, or the replenishment fee, basically, into the extraction fund, because there wasn't enough money there. And they're calling it a loan, but frankly, they don't have money to repay the loan. It's a liability that frankly they can't support. And my feeling is that that's inappropriate, just my position anyway. Second point was the GA made it very clear that they're no longer interested in working with the recycled water effort. And of course, that's something that we've been trying to get the city to work with us on for what, two and a half years, and we've gotten a lot of pushback from the city. I don't know exactly why, but this might be a good time to re-engage with the city to see if maybe they had a change in attitude now that the GA is no longer all that interested in working that particular problem. That's it.
Thank you for that, Stan.
Can I make a quick comment on working with the city? Met with Ron Strand from the city. We had some initial discussions about the wastewater treatment plant. He said that I believe he said that the current plan is for the city to build the wastewater treatment plant and have an area where advanced treatment could be performed, but not to fund that piece of it. And certainly I said we might be interested. And so we are in some level of discussions, and I believe I have another meeting with him scheduled for later this week or next week. I think it's later this week, Thursday morning. So we're trying to engage with them and see where that goes.
A quick question, George, is that for, are they going to do a tertiary treatment or advanced treatment or both?
I don't have the exact
You don't have that,
details.
okay.
They basically said the advanced treatment, I would consider that tertiary treatment.
No, it's basically
second and
advanced.
third.
Yeah, there's tertiary treatment then advanced. So
Yeah.
if they do advanced, that means it's ready to go. And if they do tertiary, it means a lot more work needs to be done on it.
Yep, but they're going to be having
They're-
space available for
they're
that kind
a-
of plant. They don't plan to build that.
Yeah,
They're just doing the first step.
Their original plan only went up through secondary treatment.
Right.
So, and the tertiary wasn't even, it was sort of looked at, but not as part of the budgetary plan.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that starting with like tertiary and out, depending upon what that means.
Right.
Because it's, the quality of the recycled water is dependent upon what they're expecting it to be used for. So at this point in time, I think the GA had some ideas of what they wanted to do, and that was the injection, but we don't know what the city is planning to do at this point in time, as far as I know. I don't think they have a plan, because I think they stopped planning when
I
the
didn't
GA
get the
got
sense
involved.
that the city had some idea of a customer in mind if the water was treated to, specific levels, and that level of detail is something we haven't gone into yet.
Questions to ask when you meet with Ron next.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, very good. Questions from the public?
Yes. Again, Mike Neal, let me just work backwards from what I just heard talked about. As far as the recycled water, keep in mind, and I've said this every chance I got, all that water, it belongs to the district ratepayers. And I guarantee you Ron Strand's going to want to sell that water to the district, or if he doesn't, try to find another buyer. There's only one other potential buyer. If they use the water out of that wastewater plant and it gets recycled, if the district has to fund the recycling plant or whatever, well, that might be the case. But selling the water back to us, we already paid to pump it out of the ground, is unacceptable. It would just be ridiculous money grab by the city, and they have plenty of money. They're taxing us like crazy, so they don't need any more. As far as the News Review published letter, your attorney is correct. I have the copy of the letter here that I was reading from previously, and it says it's attributed to Phil Peters and Scott Heyman. I would say it's probably actually been written by Phil Hall and Keith Lemieux, handed off to Peters and Heyman as frontmen. I don't think they personally have the language attributes to craft a letter like this, but the lawyers certainly do. In any case, the language in there that I already read previously, trying to throw shade on the water district, prompted Rod Stiefvater to make a response in a letter I think it was published this week. And at the end of the letter, he said, rather than pitting different groups against each other, as the IWVGA has done, it's crucial to foster dialogue and collaboration to find sustainable groundwater solutions that benefit everyone in our community. I would submit that based on past actions of the real leadership of the GA, which, not necessarily those sitting on the board, in some cases true, that's probably not going to happen. The GA, for whatever reason, seems to view itself in a general as a entity above all its member representations. They pulled this on the water district at least 2 other times over the past years, tried to, take a little public stabs in the back at the district. And they seem to forget completely the only source of funding that they have comes from this district. What if the district had done like Searles Valley had done and say, we don't agree with your replenishment fee, we're not going to pay it. They wouldn't even be able to meet. They're going to pay their staff, their lawyers, or anybody else. It would be kaput. It'd be the end of them. So, and I've said this before, and I'll repeat myself, but I'll preface it with a question. When is the district finally going to get tired of this kind of act by the GA? When are you finally going to say, we've had it with this backstabbing. We're trying to do the best we know for this community, and the GA is plunging ahead in ways that we think are not wise, and they continue to try to stab at us and take public acts of making the district look bad in the eyes of the public, and it's absolutely not the case. And so, like I've said before, you could rid this valley of the GA. You could help craft a initiative law. You'd get all the signatures you need in probably a couple of weeks, and they would have to put that on a ballot to be voted in, and all the new proposed law would have to do is just expand the boundaries of the district to include the entire basin, and make this a dual agency that sits as the water district and the GA, and if people could elect the members to that agency, and they'd have elected representatives seeing to their needs. And you look at the actions and the desires of this district versus actions and apparent desires of the GA, it's real easy for most people in this valley to see which one they would rather have governing their water use in this valley.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. We have one other public comment.
Excuse me, Judy Decker. I have a couple of other things to add about the GA meeting. First of all, Steve Johnson reported on, and you probably already know this, but I'll say it anyway, on the DWP releases. They released no water in September nor October, nor has any of the water, and they released a total of a little over 12,000 acre feet. 11,000 acre feet of that went into the El Paso Basin. The rest came here. They have done their fall water monitoring sampling, and to date there is no evidence of that water in the groundwater here. And with regards to the talk about money, Stan, your comments were very appropriate. It was mentioned in a sentence by Steve Johnson that it appeared that DWR had less money to give out to groundwater basins with Sigma. And the comment was then made about the state budget. And I'm sure if you are all aware of, for several years, Mr. Newsom stated we had an excess of funds, and then suddenly he discovered how to do arithmetic, and lo and behold, we are in the hole a lot. So it remains to be seen how much state money will be allotted to groundwater basins in the future. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that, Judy. Any other comments? Anybody in the queue? Okay, very good. Thank you for that interesting discussion and presentation. Item F, comprehensive.
Yeah, we still, we're not done with the report here. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I'll get there, George, yes.
I thought
Judy
we were
has
done.
something else?
Sorry.
Before you move away from this, you report each month, you have a water, excuse me, I guess I swallowed a frog. You have a water management committee that meets, and they frequently discuss the brackish water study. Some of the money that has been used for that study is public money, and yet it has been years since there's been any kind of public report on that, and you guys do not report anything about that in your public meetings. And I wondered why you did not.
The final report is for that project is being drawn up because I know it needs to be submitted to the state to justify all the money that was spent on the project. So I do know that the participants are creating the final report for that, and I assume that would come to George, or George can find out about it. I'm not sure when it's due, but I know they're working on it because that phase of the project is complete.
There should be a public presentation.
And it may very well be. We have to wait till the report's done.
I think that report has been delayed a couple times. And
Yeah.
that's probably why you haven't seen anything.
I think so.
You have some comments on items 1 and 2, George?
I do. Just wanted to note that we submitted comments to the Bureau of Land Management regarding the imported pipeline project. So obviously the Groundwater Authority is the lead agency, and their lead government agency on their NEPA process is Bureau of Land Management. And so they're processing comments. We did, as it regards to the pipeline, we submitted some comments under NEPA, essentially that said, there were a number of things they said were not going to be addressed in NEPA. One of them was public service, another one was ag. And so there was a sort of a generalized theme that they weren't going to look at socioeconomic impacts. Now you're bringing a pipeline in, essentially that could have been sized as big as you wanted it to. You could have built a giant pipeline big enough for ag, but you decided not to. And to say that we're not going to analyze the socioeconomic impact, you're going to bring a pipeline in and you propose to connect it only to a public service entity, the water district, and you say that public service is something we shouldn't address and how that would impact us and our customers. And we feel like those are important things to be addressed in the NEPA process, because overall we want them to really analyze if they want to understand how this project is going to affect the valley. The socioeconomic impacts are pretty important, we believe. So those were substantive comments we made. On number 2, they have a preliminary design review for the imported pipeline project, and they're quickly moving from 30 to 60% design. They said by 17 November, so not far from now. So I submitted some generalized comments, and we may submit some more detailed comments on the design. And in particular, we wanted them to consider alternatives to the pipeline. That would include potentially, as the water comes over, not just delivering it only to the water district, but potentially to other customers or other locations, or possibly injecting some of the water directly into the aquifer to offset other users who may not be there. There are really, I think the important thing in that is, in their study, there's 2 options. There's the 24-inch pipeline that would support both Searles Valley Minerals and the rest of the basin. And then there's an option 2 where Searles Valley Minerals, for whatever reason, it goes out of business, or it finds water elsewhere, or just somehow finds they're no longer drawing from this basin, and that's a smaller pipeline. And so we were trying to figure out, get them to sort of detail how those 2 options would work a little bit better. And we want to have, to respond to the comments that personnel have made, we've tried to schedule meetings with them to discuss costs and to discuss, these alternatives or these options in their NEPA analysis, various COAs that could be considered as they design the pipeline and ways they could do it. Having limited success, they did send out an email today saying, check your availability to actually have a meeting with the GA on cost. And so we're all kind of putting in our availability. And I'm hopeful that meeting will occur and we can start to, work more closely with them. And at least on the, you don't have to cooperate with someone when you agree on everything. You only need to cooperate with people when you're you have substantial disagreements, and that's what we need to do, is work together to get to the best solutions. So that's my report.
Yeah, thanks for that effort. It's important and underappreciated. Thank you. We have a caller. We see a caller holding. Caller, go ahead.
Thank you.
Hey.
Yes, I'd like to comment.
Hello,
when
Mr.
they
Mead.
get to that point. Pardon me?
I said, hello, Mr. Mead.
Well, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you doing? You need
Great.
to,
How-
you
how's
need to
things
identify
going?
yourself, though.
Oh, okay. This is Larry Mead. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Larry Mead, and I'd like to thank the Water District for the good rates we get, but I'd like to back up to the D on your Northwest transmission pipeline. Are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
And could we possibly name that the 178 or something West Pipeline? Because we have lots of folks in the valley that want to cause trouble, and there's no water in the Northwest. We're going to be drying everything up with your pipeline. So maybe we ought to try to clarify that, if you don't mind. And I'd also like to tell Mike Neal, and you guys, if you don't know, there's been about $2 million of other monies that's been paid to the GA from other water pumpers. So I think we ought to try to clarify that. Maybe I can look upon you guys to help the GA understand that it's not just the Water District paying. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. I guess it'll be something for the namer of the pipeline to consider.
We could hold a contest.
Understand the potential conflict, though, or confusion. I can understand the potential confusion. Thank you for that, Mr. Mead.
I can give you the history of it.
You can.
Okay, item F, comprehensive adjudication. Mr. Worth?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and be quick about this. I think everybody understood that the GA filed a motion earlier, I believe it was last month, to be appointed as class counsel for small pumpers, if you will. That hearing will be held on December 15th. The Water District is right now preparing its response to the GA's papers, and we anticipate filing that on December 1st. We intend to oppose it, but for reasons I don't want to get into until we file our papers. We just believe that it's unnecessary, and in the past, I believe it will increase the length of the adjudication as well as increase the cost. So that's really all I've got on that right now.
Okay, thank you for that. It's just been pointed out that the previous caller is still showing up on the screen, is still on. Did he not hang, did Mr. Mead not hang up, or? Oh, it's gone now. There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment?
Yeah, Mike Neal. Nothing formal to back this up with, but everything I can see reading about this attempt by the GA to get Lemieux put in as the supposed representative of small well owners is really nothing more than, they don't like being left out of the action. They want to be in the courtroom. They're making a chess move with this little ploy of theirs, and because they're not a pumper, so they shouldn't be there in the courtroom making whatever statements that they want to make, and they're trying to use this just to lever their way in there. I don't know if there's any way for people outside the litigation parties to send comment to the court on an issue like this, or not. Probably the courts usually don't like to take any input other than what they have to. But if there's some fashion, I would certainly not be adverse to writing a letter to the court stating my opinion about this particular action.
Thanks for your comment. Any others from the?
Mr. President, if I may just respond. just for the record, if you're a party to the adjudication, you always have the ability to address the court. So I'm not sure, Mr. Neal, if you're there, but if somebody is an active party in the adjudication and you feel like you have something to say to the court regarding whatever the issue might be, you do have that opportunity to address the court, and you should. So that's all.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, item G, general manager and staff update. I'll turn that over to our illustrious new general manager.
Okay, well, good news, no injuries to report.
Okay.
More good news, water usage continues to decline. Looks like it's been down 200 to 300 acre feet before lower than last year's level, which is something like 30% down from our peak usage. So we continue to see population growth and decreased water usage. And I believe in one of our committee meetings, we talked about perhaps bringing in an economist to kind of look at sort of what different rates, if say the pipeline came and rates went up, what would that really mean? Because there's additional, analysis that we need to do about how much water we could potentially take in the future, particularly if we had to offset something like Searles Valley Minerals, which is one of the options that they have on the table. I don't know that we could physically take that much water and push it through the district as an offset to what they're pumping from the basin, given the trends in our water usage. So I want to thank Stan. He's the cheapest consultant we've ever had. And he actually looks at these numbers quite closely, and he and I have had some really good discussions about these. So thank you, Stan. And that is my first part of my report.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What was the reported gallons per day per person to the state?
98.
That was for November, right? For October. Thank you.
It occurs to me, George, as you're walking through this, we had an extensive discussion during our last rate study provided by our consultant who talked about on the periphery some of the things that you're discussing here. He might be somebody that's worth reaching out. He's familiar with our system. He's done our rate studies for years. Mark, what's his last name? Hillebrand. So, perhaps staff can point you there his way, and it might be, he may be a resource that'd be helpful for you.
Thank you. I'm taking that name down, and
I think we may have him on a retainer. Is that right, Jim?
Not sure if we have him on a retainer.
No,
but-
it was on a contract that has expired or we've used up, but that doesn't mean we can't reach out to him again.
this would all be important as part of the analysis of the overall impact of, what the pipeline might do to our ratepayers if it were to come.
Sure.
So useful. Some other great news report. We had, we participated in the city's trunk or treat. Amber and Lauren, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. I didn't get to go to that one, but I heard a lot of good things. Even when I was at the mayor's collaboration meeting, he brought up what a great event it was.
I want to see the pictures.
Yeah.
So, in another public outreach event, we had a booth at the Petroglyph Festival on November 4th and 5th. That was a really fantastic event, and I did get to go to that one. And there's a whole bunch of people that deserve credit, and I'm going to read a list here in a minute. But first, I want to say the turnout was so good that I believe we ran out of stuff that we were giving away, water district stuff, water saving devices and whatnot, and water meters and pens. And it was a great event. And I guess they had to call in emergency backup supplies to finish the event. That was pretty cool. I got the opportunity to meet a bunch of people from the public and got a lot of great feedback. I thought was very valuable to my continuing education on the Valley. So with no one in particular at the front of the list, Robert Renfro, Jack Kennedy, Johnny Estrada, Ana Chavez, Isabel Tejeda, myself, Sam Molina, Lauren Smith, all worked that event, and it was fantastic.
Thank you, staff. That was awesome. It's important, especially with all of the uncertainty going on in the area right now with groundwater. It's important that we put out a strong public face, and I appreciate you guys doing that.
believe that was it.
Oh, okay. So we're on item 3, state regulatory updates. That is something that our previous GM would talk to.
Oh, sorry. Not a lot to, I have nothing significant to report on state regulatory updates other than, we've obviously been talking a lot about 779 that passed.
Right.
And, that's more involved with the newspaper article. We continue to, collect data on, the Conservation as a Way of Life program, and I know Jason has gathered some more data, and he may have an update on, I know you had some data that you gave to me, I'm trying to,
It was on the evaporative cooler variance.
The variance.
And preliminary data would look like would save another 500 million gallons of water on that variance a year.
Wow.
But we're going to have to actually go out and do the groundwork and make sure that the numbers I'm assuming are accurate.
and ultimately, what that tells, we already thought even without that, we would be close to being in compliance, even out in like the 2035 timeframe, and this would only add to our cushion to be in compliance with that, and that's a fantastic tribute to the community at large, to this board and the water district and all the efforts that have been put in up to this point that really put us in a fantastic posture to be in compliance with that program as we move forward.
And that due diligence you're referring to, Jason, is basically a head count of the number of swamp coolers are in our district? Or?
It's the going out and actually getting a sample of the number of swamp coolers and what their actual sizes are.
Okay. Thanks for that.
George, do you know, we have a consultant that provided us with this document that you're probably familiar with. Sorry about that. Waterview, are they continuing to try to update the work they've done? Basically the original work was for the residential, both the indoor, and they started working on the outdoor, though there was still some uncertainty in their numbers. But there's still the CII and a water loss and a variances business that, need to be formalized, is my understanding anyway. And I was curious, have we been contacting with Waterview?
We did. I believe Jason contacted them, and I have a meeting tomorrow to get a briefing from them on the current status.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Very timely. Thanks for the quick response.
I got to say thanks to Jason and the team who actually
Thanks,
reached
guys.
out and talked to them, because I get no credit for this one.
He did not pay me to ask that question. I want you to know.
I'm still impressed with the responsiveness to your question, though. It was less than 24 hours. That's a question from the public.
Yes, Mike Neal. So my memory serves me right. We're talking about the bills that say you've got to go down to 55 or 45
Yes.
gallons per day per capita, blah, blah, blah. So since Mr. Zadiba has exited, let me just refresh the memories here. I previously suggested months back, I'm glad Stan mentioned Waterview because I was going to have to ask for the name of the program. But via use of Waterview, I looked at what was presented previously. You can tie down specifically to an address what property has a lot of green going on it. More particularly, people aren't going to get rid of their trees, but they might get rid of their grass, especially if they're informed that grass is probably going to cost them a lot of money in the summer, just like the little bit that I do have cost me a lot this summer. And I mean, it cost me a lot. I was paying 700 cubic feet over anything over 20 per month. And I stayed before and, can't quantify it, but just living here for 40 years and knowing what the town is like, that I think by the use of just elimination, getting people to somehow eliminate the grass in their yards, you might meet your water use goals and avoid the allocation, those excess allocation, thereby the fees and thereby the cost. But, you know, it would take some work. But that water view gives you what looks to be a perfectly usable tool to I mean, if literally go to somebody's, send a letter to somebody's house and say, you know, here, let us inform you, you know, here's how you can reduce your water cost. Here's how you can help out your friends and neighbors in the valley. Or you can also compile a list and, you know, may be useless since, you know, Mr. Decker and everybody, all of us know the state doesn't have anything but a huge deficit, but go to the state and say, hey, you guys are the one pushing this on us. Help us incentivize these particular addresses, of which we have a long list here, to rid themselves of the grass, and then we'll solve our water use problem in the valley. And I think that's actually doable. Just you know, I mean, all these other Southwest towns are doing it. You don't see any grass growing in any new houses that have been built in Las Vegas for the last 15 years, maybe more. You know, and so they're pushing that. We all have to push that way. We may not like it. My wife didn't like getting rid of the grass in our front yard, but I was like, if I were to sell his house, I'm probably not going to be able to with grass in the front yard. Who wants to pay for the water for that? So, you know, we should try to make good use of the Water View program and push for more conservation.
Yep, totally agree. And we're seeing evidence that this is happening across the valley. If no other evidence than the fact that the amount of water that we're pumping right now is continually being dropped. And you can see evidence driving around town that, well, all the new construction that's going in, they are zero-scape yards. They may have a little spot of green in the back, but what's on the street is zero-scape for the most part. And
Just don't let your trees die.
yeah.
I mean,
It's too hard to bring them back.
Removing turf is one thing, which I wholly agree with. I just hope people take the time to do something, you know, keep it cleaned up, keep some hardscape in there, but don't let your trees die. I see so many people just turn off their lawn water, and a tree happens to be sitting there and the tree dies. You know, all you need to do is turn off the lawn water and put a bubbler on that thing to let you know that once the trees get relatively established, they don't take a lot of water, and they really make our community more attractive. So don't let your trees die.
Yeah, and if you stress them by reducing the water beyond what they absolutely need, they're going to get bugs in them, and they're going to all of a sudden die, and you won't be able to recover them. And then your neighbor's trees are going to be victims to the bud population that we've seen outbreaks in the past. So I totally concur. Be careful.
No, I just wanted to say I was against the program because I didn't want to see people's privacy invaded. But I'm glad to see Mr. Neal. I've never heard him support something like that, so I'm glad to hear that comment. So,
Yes, we do. Okay, we have a caller in the queue. Okay. Caller holding. Okay, caller.
Yes, this is Larry Mead again. We're getting $4 per foot for turf in Las Vegas credit, and they're also running a water-intensive tree replacement program. So those are a couple things you guys might look at. Okay?
all right, Mr. Mead, are they doing
Thank
anything there on coolers?
Oh, you can't. No VAP coolers. And anybody that has VAP coolers are being recommended to go ductless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm sure if we looked into it, we're not doing anything that old, but I'm sure if you look into it, they're giving credits for ductless too.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll just pass that on to you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, are we ready to move on to item number 4? Special board workshop. This is the issue of potential strategic planning. We had a brief discussion of this. We have Mr. Sainamon and myself and the general manager have met. We have been discussing potential items for the board for consideration. Those items have not been shared with the board yet, so I'm not at liberty to share it with the public. But I would assure you that there is some action going on in this area, and we'll be happy to report it to you when it's ready to be reported. So, item number 5, booster station project.
Okay, so Canyon Springs Enterprises continues working on this project. They've had issues with the disinfection of the pump cans and the discharge piping. They're chlorinating it again this week. I think it's the 3rd or 4th time that they're having to go through this, so hopefully they can get that passed and they can actually do the tie-ins and get moving on this project. Right now, the completion date is sitting at December 6th, but because of the delay with the disinfection, that may be pushed out, so, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you, Renee. Comments, questions on the booster station? Judy, last chance.
Good night, Judy.
No, she's coming back. Item 6, financial status. Ty?
Okay, through October of this year, we have actual revenues of 5.27 million, which is 441,000 below budget. You can see the impact of reduction in water use. Though on the expenditure side, we have expenditures of 5,375,000, which is 653,000 less than budget. So even though our net is a negative 104,000, we're 200,000 better than budget at this point. So we're keeping track of that because expenses are low and revenues are low. We're okay on the net side. Capital expenditures to date, 715,000, 370,000 in debt service principal. And then I threw in the total to date for GSA fees that we have paid. We've paid 2.3 million in extraction fee and 10.5 million in replenishment fee.
Okay, 12, wow. 10 and a half?
Yes.
Cumulative?
12.7.
12.7. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Is that right? Total?
Cumulative for both extraction and replenishment fee, we've paid 12,838,000.
All right. I don't know if this is the place to ask or wait till item number 8, but can you speak briefly to the financial impact on the water, what our estimated financial impact on the water district is going to be for the 178 transmission line?
So when we did the new rates, we factored in a bonding issuance of, I believe it was about $7.5 million. So that was factored into the rates. Going out for bonding for this project combined with the Springer pipeline expansion project was coming in at around $9.5 million. $3 million we're getting from the state, so it'd be another $6.5 million in the bond issuance, which is incorporated into the rate already.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So we're running that process of going out and issuing bonds concurrent with the bid for the contract work, so that as soon as we get funding, we're ready to hit the ground on the construction side.
Okay, and have we received any insight into the $3 million plus up from the state?
Insight,
As into,
we're submitting all the paperwork for it
okay,
right
so it's
now.
been submitted or being submitted?
Being submitted.
Okay. Do we have a feel for when that might be? I don't understand the
We
process.
should have that available as soon as we need it.
Okay.
It was in the budget, so they're waiting for us to get the paperwork done. We were waiting on, hey, if we're getting grant funding for this project, that we want to shift that over to the Springer. That ultimately didn't happen, so now we're able to submit the paperwork.
It just occurs to me, and maybe the board should discuss this, but it just occurs to me that we ought to be jumping through hoops to get that money, because I think the budget's going to be under a lot of stress this year. The earlier,
Right. Yeah.
probably the better. But
Yeah, we'll have all that paperwork submitted this week.
okay,
You
awesome.
already approved the resolution a couple of meetings ago, so that's all ready to go.
Has
Thank
the
you, Ty.
bond effort gotten along far enough to have an idea what the interest rate might be?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
They're anticipating around a 4%. That's what they told us. Of course, that can change.
Yeah, that's quite a bit lower than the housing market right now.
Right.
Considerably lower.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions for Ty or?
Well, I'll take this opportunity to throw a thank you out to the financial team. They had some auditors in last week and they were busy. I sat in on some of the meetings and the professionalism, the actual attention to detail that they pay to our finances, real credit to the team. I was very impressed, and you're going to get a report sometime in a few months from that audit, but just wanted to recognize them for the above and on effort, and I know there's a lot going on, and I got to see them getting grilled for hours on end, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. The unappreciated efforts that go on before we have these meetings. Item 7, conservation.
Okay, this is for calendar year. We have received 62 water waste reports, made 62 contacts, 24 formal warnings were issued, and 7 penalties issued.
Can you speak in general of what the scale of some of those water wastes are? Or?
A lot of times they are watering violations in the summer, so they're not sticking to their assigned watering days or the watering hours.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Other than that, there's a couple sprinkled in with that, continuous leaks that aren't being addressed when they should be.
Okay. Thank you. In your current Northwest 178 transmission line.
I like the new name. We've kind of discussed this, but to summarize, Krieger and Stewart is actively working on the bid documents and final plans. District should be reviewing that this week, and it should go out to bid by the end of the month. Cal Muni sent us documents to sign to finalize the selection of the underwriter, and they are currently developing the first draft of the rating agency presentation. So we're still on track for award of the project on February 13th board meeting.
Okay. And you mentioned there may be 2 options you're bidding on or haven't bid on?
They're going to have dual schedules, one with removal of the pipe and replacing it with conventional PVC, and then one with slip lining the pipe in place and using fusible PVC.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just analyze the cost and the availability and how long it's going to take to do the job.
Are there any obvious durability issues? Is there favoring the putting pipe inside of a pipe or versus new? Or
no, the way it's done is when they slip line it and then they grout any open space inside the pipe so that it doesn't move around. So it's held in place and the durability is the same as it would be for conventional PVC.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments?
I don't want to kill a dead horse, but I want to kind of pay attention to Renee's comment that she made as far as what we're going to call the line, because I don't want it to be construed that we have by other entities that we have a lot of problems with a lot of different pipes. So I think we need to keep the name the same and let's call it one thing so we don't have a huge issue with, they got all these problems, because we have one problem and that we're addressing that problem when we're fixing that problem. So.
And that is the name we used in the resolution, the Northwest Transmission Pipeline.
So that's probably the one you want to stick with.
We should probably stick with it.
We should probably stick with it, so.
Yeah, we don't want the questions also coming down from the state, wondering what the heck's going on.
We can attach an AKA to it if you want.
There you go.
Shoot. Okay, thanks for that comment. That's a good point.
List of known aliases.
Yeah.
Arsenic treatment facilities.
For the month of August, Plant 2 treated 5,071,000 gallons. The plant was taken offline, or the last time it was ran was October 6th. So it's not officially winterized yet, but it hasn't ran since then.
Okay, thanks for that. And that should answer one of the questions I think that was asked earlier. Operations.
For the month of October, there were 2 repairs, 31 replacements, 73 valves returned, bringing our year-to-date to 242. No-DES ran 6 times, filtering 55,110 gallons, bringing our all-time grand total to 9,099,195 gallons saved.
Good deal. And no injuries. Item 10, board comments, future agenda items.
I have a quick question for Ty back on financial. The numbers you gave us, those are from inception, correct? From the that's the total amount that the district has been responsible for, has been paid to the GA?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that.
through October.
Through October,
So it does
right.
not include any payments we made this
Okay,
month.
all right. It's a big number.
It is a big number.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to get bigger.
Yeah, I know.
Other comments or future agenda items for consideration?
I'll just make a comment, in the public meeting, as we're always looking to save costs, we're experimenting with a different type of pipe other than copper for pulling laterals. And this is what, 1/10 the cost, 1/6 the cost of the copper pipe? It's
Approximately. Copper's current average is about $9.50, and this comes in at $2 a foot.
Wow.
pretty significant cost savings to our customers. There was an interesting comment about Made in America. There was a specific type of pipe that was made in America several years ago, I guess, and we were using it very successfully. They transferred their manufacturing to a foreign country, China or somewhere. India, and the quality just fell off the charts, and it was no longer any good. So a plug for Made in America. Too bad they're not still making that stuff. It was apparently had aluminum inside and some.
It was CPVC with an aluminum lining and then a CPVC interior coating.
Yeah, so, just a plug for Made in America. They were making this great stuff that was working fantastic, and here they outsourced it, and then we couldn't use it, and we had to go back to copper. Now we're trying some other alternatives, but always looking to save the customers and get them the best value. Want to say kudos to the team that works those kind of details every day.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Yeah, there's a whole lot of hidden stuff that we're not aware of. And all I see is that the system works, and so that means you guys are doing your job. And we certainly appreciate that.
I got a comment. We still on comments?
It's still on comments.
All right, I just got a couple. I think, aren't we due for a special board workshop coming up soon? January, okay, so we'll be talking about that at the next board meeting and setting a date. Renee, I take it you're the one that's submitting the numbers to the state on the compliance, or at least the information about gallons per day per capita.
I am now, yes.
And the percent of, I know Don's report used to be pretty long for that. I
Mhm.
mean, it's something that I find very interesting. So at least if I can get the gallons per day information, as well as how we're stacking up with the percentage, say, the percent of, I forget, he did it from 2013 compare. I don't know if we need to do that anymore. I mean,
I don't know if he's used to send you guys the monthly.
Yeah, he actually would send
report.
us the
I can
report.
do that, and I
Whichever-
just did the Safer report this morning,
Yeah.
which is that monthly report to the state where you get the gallons. per
Whichever
capita.
easier for you. If it's just a matter of copying and sending it
It's a
to us.
PDF that I can
Yeah.
email to you also.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, something that I mentioned a couple of meetings ago, right after George reported on board, was that, I think it's in our responsibility to sit down and look at the data that we did used to receive from Don and decide how much that we individually want to see in the future, and then provide the feedback to staff to say, okay, it's either, it could be a bigger report, I don't know, but I think it'll be a smaller report, probably a little bit easier to digest, but I would put that back to us, that we haven't answered that mail yet, except for Ron's comments tonight, so.
I sent comments.
Did you send some?
I did feedback via email.
Okay, good. So, yeah, please, if you haven't, please do that. Okay.
I've received some feedback, and then I believe at the conference we're going to attend, there's a couple of meetings that talk about KPIs and things like that and how they're used, and I'll be interested in amassing all that in my head and trying to figure out what's the right stuff to report and why.
As a suggestion, we could actually have a small section of the workshop. We're all sitting there and saying, here's the data we want, rather than piecemealing it to these people, what do we want, is sit and agree on it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Less is better.
Right, and,
There's certain things that are of particular interest to individuals, and that's fine.
Then the last comment I want to make is I want to thank the staff, Lauren and her crew, I guess, and everyone that's involved in the public outreach. It's so important to the district. I'm so glad to see the positive reception of those kind of things. And it's important that we continue. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It reflects real well on the water district, reaching out like that, right?
But we didn't get to dress up. The board didn't this year. No.
Dave?
It's been said before, it bears repeating. Despite an increase in population, our ratepayers are well on their way to using half the water that we used formerly. So there's a marked decrease in water usage. And it comes with the transformation of the appearance of the town. I know a lot of people had to give up their lawns. And that is just the conditions under which we live. But I see a lot of nice xeriscaping out in town, and I think people are starting to catch on to that and to really make the town look amazing for the amount of water that we use. And I think that's great, and thank you, everybody, for all your effort on that.
Yep, certainly a team effort. Thank you. Okay, I think we are done at 12:40. I'm sorry, 7:40. Oh, you
I got one other thing to bring up. I should have thought about this. I believe that we have election of officers next month. Is that correct, in December? So President, Vice President, so everybody keep that in mind. Thank you.
I was going to make one little comment. We had Veterans Day this last weekend, and I think we should be thanking our veteran employees for their service to our country.
Indeed, yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely. Then and now.
Then and now, and future veterans. Thank you to all. Okay. Meeting adjourned at 7:40. Better than 12:40. We could make it 12:40.